All right, so we have a client interview today with Matt, owner at Labelmatch, who we have been working with about for 3 months now. And
We're on month four. Yeah,
month four, there we go. How are you doing, Matt?
and outstanding. Thank you for asking.
Great to hear. All right, so first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, your company Labelmatch, and which industries and markets do you serve to kick off this client interview?
Sure, sure. Again, I'm Matt Vilna. I'm the president, owner, and janitor of Labelmatch. We've been in business since 1998. We started with one product in the label industry, and today we tout that we carry somewhere around 5,000 stock products and manufactured custom products for really just about every industry. Our primary focus in working with you all has so far been in markets like the beverage market, prepared food market, and then also now we're starting to move into the fastener market. So in the business that we're in, we can encompass many industries. So as kind of a canned answer, we primarily serve third-party logistics companies, retail manufacturing distribution, automotive, healthcare. Those are some pretty broad categories, but primarily we focus on small to medium-sized companies. We're really not focused on tier one. Um, so we're after people that are like us, small to medium-sized companies that are moving a lot of product that need a lot of labels. I mean, that's really what we're after.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so now talk to me a little bit about what were you guys doing for lead generation, getting new customers before working with us? How were things going? What were the results looking like? Were there any challenges that you guys were facing?
Well, I think it depends on what time frame you ask, right? So if there's been multiple time points
Hmm.
where we've done very, very well with, I would almost call them traditional efforts, and I'll expand on that here in a second. But it's been the last couple of years, it seemed to be we were making the same effort or even more extreme efforts and getting in fewer and fewer leads. So for starters, we even though we have an e-commerce website, we're not necessarily hyper focused on e-com transactions. We're more so looking for lead generation, and those efforts in the past have been scary that we now consider these traditional, but now would be SEO, pay per click, page optimization. I mean, all those fun tools, and we've churned through some companies over the years trying to make that our best effort. And what we've really found is that as Google and others continue to make changes, that's difficult for us, being as small as we are, to have the resources, whether those resources be capital or personnel, to really keep up with those changes as they come. So if you flash back 2 years ago, King of the Hill, everything was great. And then something on Google side changed, and those rankings that we had fell, and with it fell the leads that we were generating. So yeah, I mean that's kind of in a nutshell the way it's looked over the years.
Got you. Thank you for sharing that. And tell us a little bit about what got you interested in working with us.
It's actually kind of a funny story. So the company that I'm working with currently for SEO, pay per click, a little bit of website redevelopment, we handed them the opportunity to do lead generation by email, and a couple tools were incorporated on their end. Klaviyo, some data mining off of NetSuite, which is our primary order to cash, ERP system. So we were kind of pulling some of those tools based on clients that hadn't bought in the last 12 months and one-time orders in the past 2 years, and some fun things that we can mine out of NetSuite, and then doing some kind of reinterest campaigns via Klaviyo. And it really kind of fell flat, So they were building flows in Klaviyo that maybe kind of sort of worked, and the response wasn't all that great, and it was really they were the ones who kind of pulled the plug and said that this isn't working. You need to find somebody else. And then that was when the word clay came up, and I started doing some digging on that. And I can't tell you ultimately how I ended up in your backyard, but I really narrowed it down to two companies that I was most interested in after talking to you about five or six. And then in the end, I don't want to say it was a coin flip, because it was really a really difficult decision, because both companies seemed incredibly qualified. But more so, it came down to that I felt that you had a little bit more experience. I thought the technical expertise that Preeti bought, and then of course you all focused a lot more on content generation and the impact that it could have, and I think that kind of probably kicked it over the top. That I felt more comfortable in that regard, because to be blunt and honest about it, my annoyance with working with pay-per-click and SEO, which I know is not your gig, but I maybe draw a little bit of a parallel. My annoyance in working with those companies over the years, it seems that I've spent more time writing content for them and educating them in our products and all those things that go into it, to where I almost felt like I was doing the work and somebody like you was not. And honestly, my opinion is, if I'm paying you enough money, I kind of expect you all to bring that part to the game too. And that's exactly what you guys have done.
Right. Right. Good. Great to hear that. So now that we have been working together for about 3 months, month four now, what kind of results have you seen being achieved with us? What areas of business have improved for you, or even life for that matter?
Okay. All right. So first of all, I think we need to talk about what our sales cycle is. So our sales cycle can be, there are times where it can be short, but most times there's, like we're not new. I'm sorry, we're not unique in this regard, but it can take months before we can onboard a client. So to gauge our success right now based on how many clients we've brought in, I think would be unfair to you, and then certainly would not be my expectation. I think more so it's about how many leads we've been able to garner. And to give you an example, I was actually looking at it comparatively day before yesterday, is that, go back to what we were doing, while we're still doing, and what we're still doing with SEO, pay-per-click, some other things to optimize our website, is that with the amount of money that we've spent, those numbers are still going slightly backwards. And I do mean slightly. It's not extreme, but they're not improving. And in this case, if we take a look at the first campaign, which is really brewery labels, that completely knocked it out of the park when we kind of took a look at, hey, let's go with Ohio, which is where we reside, and some surrounding states. Is that it kicked so hard that we pulled the training wheels off almost immediately to take everything east to Mississippi, and then of course after that opened up to the U.S. So my anticipation was, when we launched that campaign, was that I would handle the leads longer than ultimately I did. Is that you all were able, between that and then the launch of Distillery, to provide enough leads that now I'm kicking that off and having somebody else handle those leads as they come in. So to give you an example, I mean, and I'm sure it won't mean much since there's not a whole lot to compare it to in terms of the number of emails that were sent, but this past Friday, kind of our next step in that sales process is to send sample packs, and we sent out 47 sample packs, and that's not all of the leads. That was the ones that desired to have those sample packs sent. We have not generated 47 leads this month in the month of April last month, off of those, again, call it traditional methods.
Got it. Got it. And can you describe how has your experience been working with us, specifically regarding our relationship, just beyond the results, ease of business, ease of communication, whatever comes to your mind?
Yeah. So, this is going to sound really, really minor, but anytime I've engaged in a relationship like this, there's always been that portion where, like, and every week we're going to meet on Monday for 30 minutes, that sort of thing. And then ultimately somebody cancels in, it doesn't happen. And then eventually somebody says, hey, I don't think we really need to do this every week. But you guys have been on top of it every week. And there's been times where the meeting has literally been 5 to 8 minutes long, and that's been enough. There's other times where we've gone the full half hour because there's been something to talk about. But I always have felt that it's kind of kept me in the loop as to exactly where we're at and exactly where we're going. I don't think there's been one empty meeting where I felt like there wasn't something where, okay, we've done this, what's next? So it always kind of feels like a what's next is on the board. Which is exciting for me, and it's going to be exciting for my reps as we continue to expand this further out to them. From a technology standpoint, I mean, Slack's been key, right? So open up a couple channels, one for general chatter, which Preeti and I were doing this morning. One for, let's update what's going on with the campaigns in terms of how many emails have been sent, what kind of response we're getting, and then the last one being, generational leads. And as minor as it may have felt to you all, I mean, I'll give you the example of Jody asking, one of my sales reps asking last week, hey, can we start coding these hot, medium, and cold? Preeti, what'd she say as far as the
It's
salsas?
hot, medium, and mild.
There we go. All right. So give them salsa keys, which is great because it's letting her prioritize it. The other thing I would say is that this is the first experience I've had with lead gen where, the company that I'm working with, that being you all, is willing to step in and clarify with some of those leads before they actually get pushed out to us, right? So The easy thing would be to say, fine, here's a lead, let's pass it on and let you all mess with it. But in some cases, you guys are getting knowledgeable enough of who we are and what we do that you're able to ask some follow-up questions before it ever makes its way back into Slack. And that's a time saver for us too. So, and then of course, we had the conversation last week, 2 weeks ago, 2 Mondays ago, talking about are there some things we can do to integrate with NetSuite? And when I've had those conversations in the past with other companies, it's been more along the lines of, yeah, we'll take a look at it and maybe you should talk to somebody about getting that done. And in your case, it was more so, okay, when can you hand us keys to the kingdom, that being NetSuite, and let us get in there with a bag of toys and see if we can figure this out. And of course, that means that we take Slack out of the middle. The leads that are generated automatically get dumped into NetSuite. And in my case, on my side, I can start writing workflows, which automatically generate activities for the reps to where they get notified and we add a little more automation to this process. Because right now, as great as Slack is, there's a lot of manual work on our end. It's work we're happy to do, but our hope is that we outgrow that and we need to make this next move. And that is, let's get the API key and start working directly in NetSuite.
No, great to hear that. Always excited about new challenges to solve. Okay, so here for someone watching right now who's contemplating between, let's say, working with us or wanting to compare us with someone else, and they're like right on the edge if they want to make a decision or not, for that matter, how likely are you to recommend us to other people working with us?
Oh, I already have, so it's not a matter of, whether I would. I've told your story already, and I'll tell it again. I mean, the reality of it is, after almost 30 years of doing this, most of my friends are small business owners, right? I mean, they're either vendors that we deal with on a daily basis who are also small, medium, or just friend groups that we hang around with people that are like us, right? So I was on a golf trip 2 weeks ago, and I was telling your story to these guys. So yeah, absolutely, I'll recommend you.
Appreciate that a lot, actually. Yeah, but it sounds like you've had a great experience with us. Is there anything that we can improve to deliver better results to you guys? Is there any feedback that we can take home and implement?
Well, that's the toughest question you've asked me. And isn't it great that I have to pause and then think about it, right? I mean, that's pretty cool. Gosh, I hate to do this to you, but I'm not gonna offer any constructive criticism right now. If I think it's something, I'll be glad to come back and do this all over again. But there's no dark flags here. There's just no.
Amazing. Good to hear that. I guess we'll take that as a compliment.
Appreciate it.
Well, I think that was all for the interview. Those were all the questions I had. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, that's all I would say is that, as I've gone through this process with, other services, not necessarily here, is that, you get that whole, hey, can I get some referrals sort of thing. I know your prospects ever want to talk to me about it. Look them up. I'll be glad to have a conversation with them offline and tell them where we're at that moment. So right now everything's very rosy, and I don't see any reason why it should stay that way. As a matter of fact, we just signed on for another 3 months. We're happy about that. So if things continue to go, you guys are part of the Labelmatch team. That's just how it's going.
Amazing. Also, I just have to say, we love working with you as well. Like
Oh,
the
thank
energy in
you.
our meetings, it's like I have to say you're one of the best of our clients. Like we enjoy our time with you. So we definitely want
Thank
this
you.
to be
I
a long-term
appreciate it.
partnership.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was it for the interview. I really appreciate you coming on, Matt, and speaking to us. And I guess that's it. Thank you.
Outstanding.